Well, good morning. It is July the 27th, 2026, and straight from the highly caffeinated studio, this is According to Willie B. And guess what? I have my voice back. Well, at least most of it. I think I'm at about 90%. So while I can't promise that there won't be any word salads, I don't think we'll have any coughs to interrupt the thing today. So let's hope for that. But today I had a unique opportunity to come to you with a very off the wall topic. And I know when I say this, you're going to look at your speaker and go, he's lost his memory. No, but the question for today is, why do we travel? Now, I know you're sitting there thinking you've covered that quite a bit of why we travel. Yes, but let's look at the backside of this question. I'm going to start with one simple question. Why do people spend thousands of dollars, endure TSA, delayed flights, cramped airline seats, and still say, I can't wait to do it again? Think about if you were to go skydiving and the parachute didn't open. Would you try that again? Most likely not. So there's that. Because the one time that I went skydiving, the parachute did open, and it was an epic experience, but I've never went and done it again. I figure, why tempt fate more than once? So there's that. So I want to talk about that the escape isn't the whole reason we travel. It's curiosity, family, food, growth, memories, breaking routine. But you could even ask, when was the last time you remembered a Tuesday at work from 3 years ago? Probably never. But I bet you can remember exactly where you were standing when you watched that sunset in Santorini or on the bay on the East Coast up around Maine while eating a lobster roll. All of these things. Our memory will recall those moments. Why is that? Well, let's look into the psychology of anticipation. When we anticipate travel, there's something that goes on in our brain. And there have been studies that where people have said that it could be that the anticipation of travel could actually be the most important part when it comes to your brain happiness. Have you ever gone through an entire year at work and not took a trip of any kind? How was that year? Miserable, right? What about a year where you had one vacation planned and you did the countdown? Every day you had that countdown on your phone or on your calendar where you're doing that actual countdown. 60 days, 50 days, 40 days, right on down to the last week. And then you get to packing day. And that's another thing, is like, how do you do packing? Is packing something that you regret or not regret, but that you absolutely do not look forward to, and you think it's more of a chore than anything? And we're going to talk more about this later in the show. But this is where we do weird things. Examples. When we get ready and we have a trip booked and we're down into that final 2 weeks before we go, what do? Well, we're making sure that we have a sitter for the dog or the cat or the bird or whatever it is, or maybe even a fish, or whatever the case may be. You've got somebody to take care of that. You're cleaning out the refrigerator, you're emptying the trash, doing the laundry, watering the plants. You're doing everything that you can to make sure that everything at home is taken care of. How many times have you checked your passport within the 2 weeks before a trip? Especially if you're going to need that passport. You're probably 27 times. How many times, even though we have all of the information on our phone and on our devices, how many times have you printed confirmations? I'll tell you, I'm guilty of that one. I've got a folder sitting here right now for our trip coming up in October. I've already got a whole folder of confirmations printed out, even though I can pick up my phone and show you every confirmation in the wallet. Then there comes the packing. Do you ever buy a book? I mean, I'm talking like a novel, and take it with you. Yeah, I mean, this is your plan. I'm going to sit on that cruise ship and read this book. I'm going to sit at this resort out on the beach, and I'm going to read this book. And the vacation is over in 7 days or however many days, and you come back home, and the only time you opened the book was when you were back at home before you left. Or did you pack a pair of jogging shoes when reality sets in? You haven't jogged in the last 5 years. So there's a lot of things that we do that are kind of weird. We're getting all these things ready. We're buying books. We're doing all these things that we're never, because we're basically packing for a fantasy. And I've talked about this, where we pack for a fantasy vacation version of ourselves that is completely different from the actual reality of our true self on vacation. Because I can tell you, for me, I'm going to order an espresso, find some food, and probably take a nap. Not completely. I mean, I'm going to go see the sights. But these are just things that people pack that they never use. So why do our memories only remember the good parts? We don't remember that the flight was delayed. We don't remember that they lost their luggage. Well, there's a guy named Kahneman that has a peek in rule. And it basically says that our brains are designed to remember the good stuff. So if that's the case, let me challenge you, because you're saying, oh no, I remember the flight delay. I remember, of course you remember it, but it's not the part that stands out. Let me ask you something. If you go fishing, the fish that you caught last year, in your mind, how big was that fish? It was big, wasn't it? What about that golf game? How good was that golf game? In your mind, don't look at the scorecard. Because we always remember things better than they are. That's the way our mind is set up. We remember vacations and different things of this. We may even remember a restaurant being better than it actually was. The next time I go back, this wasn't exactly as good as it was last time. Or is it that we remember because maybe there was a certain thing going on in our life that maybe we were celebrating that made us remember that restaurant as being better than what we remember this time? There are a lot of things that the dopamine in our brain can play tricks on us and remember it. Because you're not going to say to yourself or say to someone around the water cooler, remember that amazing airport security line? No. Even regardless of how long it was, and trust me, I've been in some security lines that were outside of the airport, and that was just a couple of years ago. And I actually didn't remember that until I started doing my research for this podcast. It was a trip to Jamaica. I do remember that. I remember it being one of the most amazing trips that we've had to Jamaica, but yet we were in a security line that wrapped outside the building, but that's not the part my brain remembers. You remember the lobster dinner. You remember the Eiffel Tower. You remember the sail away party. You want to know what else you remember? Things that change your life. What am I talking about? When you go on vacation and you get to the destination, and you walk into that hotel room. How many of you, tell the truth, how many of you walk straight to the window and open the curtains? You want to see the view, but that's not what you're looking for. Maybe in your forethought, you are thinking, yes, I want to see the view from my room. But what your brain is doing is show me that we've arrived. It's basically what your brain does. And I can tell you, when you do a trip, and I'm going to challenge you on something, I want you to book a trip. Now, I don't want you to actually book anything. I want you to plan the trip as though you have it booked. And I want you to book it for 12 months out. I want you to do all the research. I want you to watch YouTube videos on the destination that you've chosen. And it could be anywhere. It could be a dream trip. I would encourage it to be a dream trip. And I would say, do the research on the menus and the places that you would want to eat there. Look at the Google Maps and zoom in on the actual street view. Get a real sense of what that trip is going to be like 12 months out. And count down to it. Now, I realize that when you get to that point and you're not actually going, I realize that there is going to be a segment there, but you don't necessarily have to count down for the entire 12 months. I just want you to book or to plan something so that you can see how the anticipation of having a trip booked changes you. All of a sudden, especially when you get in that 30-day window before the trip, now the traffic doesn't matter anymore. I'm fixing to be gone. You go to work, same thing. And that whole water cooler syndrome works for when you book the trip. As soon as you click that button, book now, and you have that trip confirmed, it's as if you're going tomorrow. Because the first thing you'll do is you'll start telling people, hey, we just booked our trip. And it could be 2 years out. I've booked trips out that far before. And trust me, I do the countdown. And I was talking about the packing. To me, packing day is like a celebration day. Now, I'm not saying that the actual act of packing is fun, but I'm saying if you make it into an event, then that day actually becomes one of your countdown days. And you're going to have to mentally visualize yourself being on vacation because you're packing for what's about to be. So that's why I say make your packing, make it an event, make it a huge thing. I'll tell you, for this household, when my wife and I get ready to go somewhere, if it's a trip that we're flying somewhere, especially if we're going to be gone for a few days, packing day, who am I kidding? It actually, for a weekend trip, can be the same way. But it's more, if it's a week-long vacation, packing day is an event in this house. You would think we're celebrating Christmas, anniversary, birthdays all in one when it comes to packing day. We will order pizza for dinner. We're not cooking. The suitcases are laid out, and we've already been planning on what we're going to pack. And now it comes down to the real thing. We are packing, and it is a packing party. We'll play music in the background. It is a literal party because that is part of the trip. And what have I told you ever since we started, according to Willie B? Your trip is about what you, the person looking back at you in the mirror, is making out of that trip. I'm telling you, it can be as mundane as you want it to be, or it can be as grandeur as you could possibly imagine. And if you start making memories, because sometimes I could sit and tell you stories of when we've had packing parties that actually became a big part of the trip. You know, we can still go through all the travel lies that we tell ourselves. Um, in other words, if it's a big time difference, you'll say, I'll sleep on the plane. That's a no for me. I'm sorry, I'm not driving, so I can't sleep. I need to stay awake in case the pilot falls asleep. I think that's something in the back of my brain. I don't know. I'll pack light. We've talked about that. No, you won't. You'll pack everything that you possibly think you might need. And this one is for the ladies. I'm only taking one pair of shoes. No, you won't. Or how about this one? We're going to be on a budget this trip, so I won't buy souvenirs. Not buying that one, are you? And then there's this one. I'm only taking one carry-on. Then we go through the airport looking like that we're preparing for a journey across the desert sands. Do you ever think about when you get to the airport, how the airport smells? Now, I mean this in a good way. I don't mean it in a bad way. Because sometimes airports can have some smells that's like, what is that smell? But there are aromas in the airport that just get you excited about your travel. That first hotel room, the opening of those curtains, that first local meal, maybe even walking into a grocery store in another area or another country or another state. That first cup of coffee, that's for me. I'm sure for a lot of you as well. And for me, taking pictures of food. And I know that some of you do as well, because I see your social media pictures, and some of the first things that you'll take pictures of is food. And it makes me proud. That first stamp in a passport. I remember my first stamp in a passport. I've never forgotten it. But here's the last thing I'll leave you with. The countdown effect. What if we, in everyday life, what if we treated everyday life the way we treat vacation? Think about this. Don't start laughing yet. Vacation 6 months away. People smile more. They're more patient. They're more optimistic. They tolerate bad days better. That's fascinating. What if we did everyday life that way? Like, next week, I'll be on vacation. How would that change our mindset? How would that change our outlook? So I'll leave you with this thought. Maybe vacations don't make us happier. Maybe anticipation reminds us that tomorrow can be a better day than today. Maybe that's why we need something on the calendar. Something to dream about, something to plan, and something that reminds us life is still an adventure. And we're out there going to record it like our own 4K movie. Remember, don't forget to record the memories and the miles. Thank you for listening. I'll see you again next week, right here behind this big old mic. Y'all have a great day.